Welcome to this series on how to get started with the Codehooks APIs. I'm excited to walk you through the essential APIs that will transform how you build serverless backend applications. In this first video, we'll explore the routing APIs, the foundation for creating secure, scalable, RESTful APIs. By the end of this tutorial, you'll know exactly how to use all HTTP verbs to build professional-grade APIs using Visual Studio Code and the Codehooks CLI. Let's dive right in. What are routing APIs really? Routing APIs are your gateway to creating custom network endpoints for your applications. Get for retrieving data, post for creating new resources, put for replacing entire records, patch for partial updates, delete for removing data, and all for handling every method with one handler. What makes this really exciting is how simple and secure these APIs are to implement. Let me show you exactly how this works. First, you'll need to set up your project. I'm opening Visual Studio Code in a folder I've created for my project, and I've already got the Codehooks CLI installed. If you haven't done this yet, simply run npm install-global codehooks to get started. Let's attach this directory to an existing Codehooks project. I'll run the CLI command coho init to set up our workspace. Notice that coho is the CLI alias for Codehooks that is created by the CLI. Select an existing project from the list, probably the one you've created in the previous tutorial. I'll select my only project named Projectone and the dev space. Next, we need to run npm install codehooks-js to install the JavaScript libraries needed by the Codehooks runtime system. You can see we have our main file index.js ready to go. This is where we'll build our routing examples. We'll overwrite the default code example with our own examples to show how to build a REST API. I'll replace the default code in the project by pasting in this code block into the main index.js file. You can see that we start by importing the Codehooks app to call the API to create our first API routes. Notice how clean and intuitive this is. Each route method takes a path and a handler function. The path can include parameters like id that become available in request parameters. Now let's deploy this API to see it in action. I'll just run the CLI command coho deploy. It's that simple. Excellent! Our API is now live. To test it, we need our endpoint URL API key and curl examples. Let me run coho info examples to get this information. This command is incredibly useful because it gives us ready-to-use curl examples that we can import directly into Postman, which will automatically create properly configured test requests for us. Perfect! You can see we now have our endpoint URL and API key. Notice how the curl example already includes the proper authentication header with our API key. Let's copy this curl command and import it into Postman to test our routes. Now I'll open Postman and import this curl command. When we import curl commands, Postman automatically converts them into proper HTTP requests with all the headers and authentication already configured. This saves us time and reduces errors. Let's examine what Postman has created for us. You can see our request URL is set to our Codehooks endpoint. Now I need to modify the path by adding shus to match our get route. The method is already set to get, which is perfect. Most importantly, notice that our API key is automatically included in the xAPI header. This is how Codehooks authenticates our requests. When I send this request, you'll see we get back a JSON response with our message getting all users and the method confirmation get. This proves our routing is working correctly. Excellent! Now let me demonstrate our post route. I'll change the method from get to post, which tells our API we want to create new data. Next, I need to add some JSON data in the request body. This simulates creating a new user. I'll select raw in JSON format, then add a simple user object with a name field. When I send this post request, notice how our API responds with the creating new user message, includes the data we sent, and confirms the post method. This shows how our API can handle different HTTP methods and process the data we send to it. And you can see we get back our response with the post method confirmation and the data we sent. Congratulations! You've just learned how to create secure RESTful APIs using all the routing methods in Codehooks. In just a few lines of code, we've built a complete and secure API that can handle get, post, put, patch, and delete operations. In our next video, we'll explore middleware and authentication APIs to add security layers to these routes. Thank you for following along, and happy coding!